Okay, well,
Sorry.
I'm glad.
Sorry.
Glad to know that. Yeah, I think someone a number of years ago helped me really differentiate this idea of going on a vacation versus going on a pilgrimage. And I think it's a really important thing, especially as we consider this kind of trip. And so it's not that we don't get to do some of the things you would do as a tourist, but it's a pilgrimage is really about letting something unfold as it happens. And so, you know, part of why I'm going with Dina is to help provide like a spiritual underpinning, I think, to the trip. And so we'll have ways to gather together throughout the trip and in various places to really remind ourselves that, in a sense, this is our roots as well. These are a particular Christian expression of our faith, and it's one that will enhance our own just by us being there and being present. Dina did a presentation in Formation a number of years ago about some of the wonderful restoration work that has happened in these monasteries, and I have a lot of contemplative interests, and as soon as she got done, I was like, I want to go. And so luckily here we are a few years later planning to go. So we're very excited about the opportunity. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to get close as a group and to come to know one another better and to pray in these very holy spaces. So turn it back over.
Okay, you want me to take over now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. I'm going to turn my camera off in just a second so you can, and I'll put some slides up. But just at the start, I will say before I do anything else, does everyone have one of these brochures? Okay, I was going to say there should be some in the room. We're going to be following along pretty much through this entire brochure. So all the information you may want is going to be in there. Let me get my slides ready and I will, bear with me just a second. There we go. You should be seeing a slide now, and I am going to turn my camera off just so it's not as distractive. So thank you all for coming today, and thanks to Dina especially, and to Beth. We've been working on this project for a little over a year from a SEEP conference that was held in Boston is when we first talked about it. A little bit about Faith Journeys. We're the company itself is only about 8 years old, but our sister company, Music Celebrations International, is over 27 years old. They do bands, choirs, orchestras. So you may have had nieces or nephews or children or grandchildren or friends, children travel with us around the world to do maybe the National Memorial Day Parade in Washington, D.C., or an orchestra festival in Cremona, Italy, or maybe a choral festival in Dublin. Those are the types of things we do. We had lots of interest of church choirs going on trips to perform and coming back, and the pastors saying, gosh, that was fantastic. We would love to do that with members of the congregation, and Music Celebrations just wasn't really set up to do that. Since they focus on music. So we were an outgrowth of them, although we're catching up to them and our experience in years that we've been around now. There's some people from our team on there. The most important person on there, surprisingly, is not me, but it is Samantha Diaz, actually Samantha Thomas now. Her name has changed since that slide was made. And Samantha is going to be the operations specialist for your group. So she is the person that is going to help you if you need anything. If you need special flights booked, if you need special accommodation because of a food allergy, if you have questions about the hotels that we're staying at, things like that, she's the person that's going to be able to help, and she is available to you. I'll show her phone number and extension on the last slide, but you can also call our office and I'll give you that information when we get to that slide as well. The phone number is in the brochure. Just a little bit about me, so you know my tie. I am Episcopalian and I only deal with other Episcopalians. My wife is the Reverend Canon Holly Herring, and she is the Canon Precentor at Trinity Cathedral in Phoenix. Where we both live, and she is actually just finishing up a service, so she may walk in during the presentation because I'm doing this from our house. And it is beautiful here today. I don't know about you, but we're going to be close to 80 degrees again, and it's bright and sunny and gorgeous outside. So I understand the types of pilgrimages that Episcopal churches are looking for, because it's what I would be looking for. So we may not have added all the elements into this initial itinerary, but we will be adding elements giving you the opportunity for worship, whether that's having morning prayer, praying compline in the evening, maybe noontime prayer, and even celebrating Eucharist along the way. And some of those I think we've worked out, but we may end up adding a few of those others. As I mentioned on the first slide, or before I turn on the slides rather, the brochure. If you look on the very back page of the brochure, you're going to see up at the top, there's a number after Faith Journey's account, and it is 21003. It's showing here on the slide at the bottom as well. If you go to our website and you to that login page and you put in the number 21003, click enter. You don't have to enter anything else other than the number. It's going to take you to your group's portal, and there will be information in there that'll be really valuable to you as we go along in the process. In fact, this video, when it gets done, because we're recording this, so people that may not be able to attend today will be able to go and watch this video. So if you know other people interested, you can just give them that information, myfaithjourneys.com/login, and tell them your group's number is 21003, and they'll be able to see the brochure and all of the information, travel notes, and a registration form, and this video along with that. So I know you don't want to listen to me talk, so I'm going to turn this over to Dina. I will mention the dates that we have chosen are December 27th of 2021. That's the departure date, through January 6th of 2022. So it does spread over the new year. We planned the time because it was a good time for people to be able to take off and travel without interrupting too much, being between or just after Christmas. There is an optional extension as well. So you could come back on the 6th with part of the group if you choose to do that, or you can stay until the 9th, and Dina will tell you a little bit more about what that entails when it comes to the itinerary.
Okay. I'm not going to go through this in great detail, but I'm going to give you some of the highlights. So the way it works is it takes a long time to get to Egypt, obviously. So your first 2 days are really leaving here and getting there. Probably get there probably about mid-afternoon. And there will be some seeing of sights depending on what our flight time is. So how that day ends is something that we'll figure out much closer to travel time. But the full first day of the trip is going to be a Giza day. Our hotel is very close to the Giza pyramids, the Great Pyramids, and it's a great way to sort of ease into a trip like this. It doesn't require a lot of travel that day. You're very close to where you're going, and it is what is iconic about Egypt. And that way we go ahead and do that thing that everybody has on their bucket list, and so that we can go from there. It is amazing. I mean, everybody thinks that they've seen the pyramids, but unless you've actually been there, you really haven't. Chuck can tell you more about that later. We'll spend the morning in Giza, and then probably the afternoon at Saqqara, which is where the step pyramid is, and that was the precursor to the Great Pyramids, and really important for understanding what those pyramids are really all about. The second day will be a day of a mixed day where we'll start with the Egyptian Museum. The Egyptian Museum in Cairo is the largest collection of ancient Egyptian artifacts in the world. It's a jam-packed museum, which is why they're building the museum out by the pyramids. That was supposed to open in 2015. It's 2020. It's called the Grand Egyptian Museum, or GEM for short. If it is open by the time we go, we will figure out how to fit that into the agenda. They'll be moving some things from the Egyptian Museum to the Grand Egyptian Museum. All of that has yet to be revealed. So we'll sit lightly with that. But in the after that, we'll go to the Coptic Museum. This is a very little known museum in Egypt, and a most excellent museum for understanding the Coptic faith and the Coptic culture. It was founded by a private collection of Coptic citizens, and now it's maintained somewhat by the government. That will set a sort of a nice foundation for understanding all things Coptic in Egypt. We'll visit the Hanging Church, which is one of the oldest churches in Egypt, and a pre-Islamic era synagogue, probably Ben Ezra, which is the location where many think Moses was found. I will not get into that at all as to whether that is historic, but it is Coptic Cairo, or the old city of Cairo, and it is largely Christian and really a phenomenal place to visit. The next day, we'll go to the monasteries of St. Paul and St. Anthony. As many of you know, Antony is considered the father of monasticism, and Paul was one of his disciples, as some say. So Anthony is credited with the monastic community where the monastery is today, and just on the other side of a range of mountains is St. Paul's Monastery. So we'll be visiting both of them in one day. That will be a heavy travel day. It's about 3 hours on a good day from Cairo. You head south along the Red Sea. It's actually a really beautiful drive. And when we get close to the monasteries, we just turn inland and go straight until we hit the monasteries. It gives you a sense of what Egypt is really like. Remember, when you see it on a map, you've got the delta at the top that flows into the Mediterranean Sea, and then you have the Nile, and all life is on the Nile and in the delta, and the rest of it is desert. Let's see. So after day 5, we'll spend a day in Cairo. Again, a lower travel day. We're trying to sort of mix it around so that it's not too intense at any, period. We'll go to what is known as historic Cairo, not to be confused with old Cairo. I know, I know, but that's the way it is. And we'll go to the Islamic Museum, which I've not had the good fortune of getting into. It was repaired right before some unrest, and I want to say 2013. And so I didn't get into it. It is a phenomenal museum of all things Islamic, and so if it is in good condition, we will be visiting. And then we'll be going to some Islamic sites that were conserved in the late 1990s and early 2000s. These are sites that were conserved with funding from USAID. And I think it's valuable to know that that's where some of your humanitarian dollars are actually going. We'll spend the day going through a number of sites there, and we'll go to the Khan Khalili Bazaar. Some know it as the Khan or the Khan. It's a huge area of many stalls of people selling their wares. It's a lot of fun. We'll talk about that in much more detail as we get closer to the trip, how to navigate it, how to negotiate, that kind of thing. But it is great fun. That day we'll have lunch in Al Azhar Park, which is a fairly new park in Egypt. Remember, fairly new in Egypt means 50 years or younger. But no, it's maybe 20 years old now. And it's at the highest point in Cairo. So you have a really beautiful view of the city, and you're right up against many Islamic sites. And so it's really a breathtaking place to sit, have lunch, and rest for a bit. And then in the afternoon, we'll go to the Muhammad Ali Mosque. If you Google it, you'll probably recognize it. It is one of the mosques in Egypt that is most iconic. The next day, we will fly to Sohag, which is right in the center of Egypt. And it's an agricultural town, almost exclusively Christian farming village. And there we have the Red Monastery. And within the Red Monastery, there's a church called the Church of Bishoy, and it is the finest example of Byzantine art remaining in the Middle East today. That's a really big statement, but that's backed by scholars. Once the conservation work was done at that site, and they actually were able to peel off the soot and the incense and the dust and the dirt of centuries. And I'm going to show you a little bit of it. This is actually a photo taken of one little segment of wall. Let's see, where are we? Okay, day 8, we go to Luxor, which is in Upper Egypt. And just as a reminder, the Nile flows north. So Upper Egypt, that's why it's called Upper Egypt, and Lower Egypt is going downhill towards the Mediterranean.
So Upper Egypt is south.
Exactly. Luxor is the location of ancient Thebes. The east bank of the Nile there is where you have Karnak and Luxor temples. Karnak temple was built over a period of 2,000 years by subsequent pharaohs and dynasties. Luxor temple was built over a mere 200 years, so it's a blip, but it's a really important blip. To give you a sense, Luxor temple is 28 square miles. We will not be walking all of that, don't worry. But that is the size of it. Karnak temple, to give you a sense, the hypostyle hall, which you may read about, is one of the early halls as you move into the temple. It's the largest room in a religious building in the world. It's 54,000 square feet. The scale of everything in Karnak and Luxor is fairly unimaginable until you inhabit it. But so the East Bank in Egypt is all temple, and the West Bank is all mortuary and burial. That's the way to think about it. And so the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens are on the West Bank. So one day we'll spend on the East Bank, and the next day we'll spend on the West Bank. Let's see, then those who are going on to St. Catherine's, and I hope that will be everyone, we will fly to Sharm el-Sheikh, which is at the tip of the Sinai, and then we will take a bus north to St. Catherine's Monastery, about 3 hours, 2.5 hours to the monastery. We will spend the night there, and then for those who are interested, there are a couple of options. We will be awoken at a very, 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 very early hour for those who want to see the sunrise from the top of Mount Sinai. There are 2 ways to do that. You can walk, and that involves a lot of stairs, which is great as long as you can walk up and walk down. I can walk up, but I can't walk down. So what I will be doing is taking the mules, which are available, and that can get you about halfway up, and is still a spectacular view. You don't have to do either of those things to enjoy St. Catherine's, however. So you can stay on the ground floor and enjoy it. And after the sunrise and we come back down from the mountain, we'll have a tour of the monastery for the day. We'll get back on the bus in time to get back to Sharm el-Sheikh for dinner. You'll be very happy that we're doing that, because that will be a very nice hotel with a lovely setting and a lovely bed and a pillow, which you will appreciate very much after a long day like that. But we'll have 2 nights in Sharm el-Sheikh. So the next day is just a full-on relax, recuperate kind of day in a beautiful beach resort. We'll spend the night again. We'll have the morning the next morning at Sharm el-Sheikh to enjoy it for another few hours. And then it will be time to head to the airport, head back to Cairo, where we will have a hotel. And how that will work will just depend on when our group flight is leaving. It could be at 1 o'clock in the morning, or it could be at 5 o'clock in the morning. Usually they're pretty early morning flights, so you get a few hours of sleep in the hotel, and then we have a shuttle that takes us to the airport and fly back home. That is a very, very quick romp through the itinerary, but we can talk about it more in detail one-on-one as you would like. Darren, is there anything you want to add to the itinerary?
Yeah, I'll just say, you'll notice that statement on the bottom that says this is a flexible itinerary. There are certain things we know, and there are certain things we don't know right now. And the main thing we don't know is what your air will actually be, because all airfare, it's mandated that it can't become available until 350 days from the return travel, which I know sounds like a lot, but that means we're looking at the 1st of February of 2021 before we can actually book the air. And once we have that, then we'll be able to fill in some pieces of knowing exactly what time you're going to arrive on that first day, to know if there'll be time to do any sightseeing, knowing what time you're going to be leaving that last day. But internally in the itinerary, there are sections where, you know, if something's in the itinerary, it will always happen. But as you know, with travel, sometimes things always don't happen as planned. And so very often we'll shift things. We'll maybe switch days out, or we'll switch something from the afternoon to the morning, and then the morning activity to the afternoon, just because it's going to be more convenient for you, especially in terms of traffic and things like that.
Days when you can get flights internally within Egypt changes sometimes every 3 to 6 months. And so we'll just keep an eye on that and switch around the itinerary as we need to.
Sure. So what I'm going to go over now, are the most important question everyone wants to know, is how much does it cost? Oh, no, I'm sorry. We've got some photos. I
I forgot that I included these even. Sorry about that. These are some photos that I have from my days with the American Research Center in Egypt that did the conservation work that was funded by USAID. It gives you a sense of why this is such a great time to see these monasteries, because they are very recently conserved. So they are now in the best condition they will ever be in again. So they were conserved and then also documented, and I can direct you to books about these various sites that were really very well done. So this is just one wall inside St. Anthony's Monastery. That's the exact same piece of wall before the research center did the conservation work. And just to let you know too, conservation doesn't mean restoration. There's no new painting. It's just cleaning, just cleaning. This is a semi-dome also from St. Anthony's. Again, you can see what it looked like before. This one, at least you could see that there was something there. In many cases, it's completely obscured. Next slide. This is in the Red Monastery. This is just a stripe that was cleaned when they were trying to figure out, you know, what will be the result of cleaning. When they do these conservation efforts, they really look for, you know, what can we accomplish in doing this? How far can we get before we do damage? And so they do test cleanings. And this was a photograph from one of those test cleanings. Next. And this is a Zawiya and Sabil, which means a prayer hall and a public water dispensary, which is really the way people got clean drinking water. They would come to these, no, don't go away, please, thank you, locations. And this gives you some sense of its condition before it was conserved. And this is one wall after being conserved. So it just gives you sort of just a little bit of an idea. I have many slides, but honestly, I could show them all to you and you still would have no sense of how awesome and, in the truest sense of the word, and beautiful these places are. So if you have ever had an interest in seeing the Christian heritage of Egypt, this is an excellent opportunity for that.
Excellent. So let's talk about the cost. So We have a bunch of different prices on here. I want to make sure I'm explaining everything. So let's start with the first one. The tour price with self-arranged air, which is land only, is $2,755. Now, I'm going to come back to that in a second. The tour price, including airfare from San Antonio, is $4,325. Now, that price is based on having the taxes, fees, fuel surcharges all added up to $700, and it's based on a minimum of 25 people. Now, if you work for an airline or have a relative that works for an airline, if you have lots of frequent flyer miles, if you have particular status on airlines, it's fine for you to do the land only. It separates you from the group air contract, and you would join the group when they arrived in Egypt, and you would be with them through when they go back to the airport on the last day. So that's the difference between those two. The optional extension, which is those 3 days that Dina just spoke about, is $645 additionally, and we've based that on a minimum of 20 people. Now, if more people go, that cost will actually go down. And $645, this is something I don't see in groups very often that add extensions. This is a very economical extension because that's including the hotels, the food, and the internal flight, and that's $645. So as I said, if we can get a few more people, we can get that rate down. Now, we did base these costs on 2020 costs. 2021 costs aren't available yet. There may be a little increase of 5 to 7%. We don't know that yet. But what we do is on the final group payment that you make, we'll make any adjustment that happens at that time. So let's talk about what's included in the trip. So we've included round trip airfare if you do our group air from San Antonio. So you don't have to go somewhere else. We're going to fly you out of San Antonio, and then you'll need to, we'll have a gateway somewhere. I'm not sure where that will be at. The taxes and fees and fuel surcharges on the air ticket up to $700. Our hotel accommodation is all based on 3- and 4-star tourist class hotels, and that's based on double occupancy. So these are vetted hotels that we know are clean and nice and have good customer service. The local, local modern motor coach. You will have a coach. You won't have the same one each time because since you're doing some internal flights, obviously you'll be getting a new coach and driver when you arrive. But when you have that coach at your disposal, it is dedicated to your group. It will be air conditioned, and it should also have a Wi-Fi router on it, which is a new thing that they're doing on all the motor coaches for groups traveling, so you can connect with social media and things like that. We've included 2 meals a day, as noted in the itinerary, and that's breakfast and dinner. We've left lunch open because it allows you, when you have some free time, like in the park Dina was talking about, to not be tied to having to sit down with the group. Let's say you have 30 or 35 people sitting down in a restaurant. They're small. It's not like here where you can get a room to fit that many people. You would book out an entire restaurant, and it would probably take 2 hours to eat lunch. So we've taken that out so you can grab a quick sandwich if you want, or shawarma, as the case may be, or you can sit down and have a nice meal, or maybe you just want to take something light from the hotel in the morning at breakfast and eat that. That choice is up to you, and it saves you money. Yes.
Darren, can I jump in just real quick? On lunch, depending on the day and where we are, we will probably need to make arrangements for your lunches because sometimes it will not be particularly easy for you to identify what is a safe and healthy place to eat.
Sure.
So, those are details that we'll deal with just closer to travel.
Yes, and our guide will help us get that together.
Right.
We have added in, which it sounds a little silly at the beginning saying this now, but the tips to your tour manager, the guides, and the local motor coach driver. I don't know how many trips I've been on where on the way back to the airport on the last day, everyone realized that that a tip hadn't been collected, and you're going through every bit of change you have and try. So what we've done is we've added the tip cost into the total cost. We will write a check back to the church before you leave, so you can cash that and take that and be able to pay the tips yourself. So there's complete transparency. You can see how much each person is supposed to get. We also have all of the sightseeing and entrance fees. If it's listed in the itinerary that you're going to go there, then it's been included in the trip. There won't be any surprises that you get somewhere and someone says, oh, well, you can go see that inside if you want, but it's going to cost X. We've already added that in. You will have a professional tour manager throughout your tour. They will be with you the whole time, and they're going to be half guide and half concierge. So they're there to check you in and out of hotels, to answer your questions, to help you when it comes to maybe a particular souvenir that you want to buy, but also to guide you through Egypt and teach you the history of the sites that you're visiting. We'll also have local English speaking guides in particular sites. So, for example, when you go to Luxor, there will be a guide that joins you there on top of your tour manager that is an expert on that area and that can really open up the history of those sites for you and be able to make the trip even more meaningful. Now, what's not included in the trip is a single supplement. So if you would like to have a private room for the entire trip, that is perfectly fine. We just need to know that, because a hotel room with 2 people in it costs the same as it does with 1 person in it. So if you'd like to have a private room, it's $530, and that covers you for the first part of the trip. If you were going to stay on the extension, that's an additional $155. We don't cover any travel visas for non-US passport holders. So if you are a resident of the US but not a citizen, and you have a passport from another country, you will need to check with your government and with the government of Egypt to find out if there's any additional fee that you might need to pay to get a visa to go to Egypt. US taxes and fees and fuel surcharges, that's actually typoed apparently. That's supposed to say $700, not $0, that we've added in. I've never seen us wrong. We normally overestimate that. And then in the end, when we're able to get the air and we see that the taxes and fees are lower, then we pass that savings along to you on the final payment. So you're not paying extra. We're just making sure that we don't have to go back to you later time and say, oh, by the way, we need this much extra. So we've overestimated that as of now. Personal services, including porterage and drinks. People ask about baggage and how many bags they could take. And the airline says that you can take 1 large checked bag up to 50 pounds, 1 carry-on item, and 1 personal item. But general logic when going on a pilgrimage with the group is if you can't carry it by yourself, you have too much. So you need to make sure that you can handle your own bags. And the porterage is just saying that if you're at a hotel, there may be someone to help you with your bags. There may not be. If there is someone there, you might want to tip them a small amount, but that is not covered. Also drinks, and that's not talking about tea and coffee and juices and things like that. That's talking about alcoholic beverages because we can't control the cost of that. So if you do choose to have those, that is on you as well. Travel insurance is not included, but it's strongly recommended. And if you turn your page from the included page we're looking at right now in the brochure, you will see an entire explanation of the travel insurance. Dina is going to add some more in just a minute about that, or do you want to do that now, Dina?
Whenever you want me to.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Back up under accommodations, it said city center accommodations are available as a supplement. What does that mean?
Where is that?
Under accommodations?
Oh,
It's in the printed materials. That's that's standard language. Your hotels are we've already looked at them. In fact, if you notice in the printed version, you'll see that the names of the hotels are in blue. If you go to the online version of this from the portal. Those are links that you can go to the hotel. That These are all central to the cities. That's general language that gets used in all of our brochures because sometimes, like in London, it's much easier to put a group outside of the city center just for cost reasons. And if they want to go to the city center, then we'll do that. But we have the locations of all your hotels already, and everything is central to where you really want it to be.
And I'm happy to jump in there. I've not stayed actually at these hotels in Cairo and Luxor. I've stayed at other hotels. But these are very commonly used by scholarly tours going into Egypt. And I have a very good friend who's a Egyptologist, and she regularly uses these hotels, so I feel good about it.
Why don't we go ahead and talk about the travel insurance?
Dan, if you can hold for 1 second, we've got another question.
Sure.
That's included.
Oh, there's a question, Darren, about the liability insurance that's included. I think that's referring to liability, that you all are carrying liability insurance, right?
Yes, we have a $3 billion liability policy that is added in to you that covers you. But trip insurance is different because travel insurance is covering you in lots of cases. One would be you can't go on the trip because of a health issue or a death in the family, or there's some civil unrest. Also covering you if there's a bag that's lost or your plane gets delayed or things like that. Dina has done some research and found an insurance company. The insurance company we list is TripMate, and they're very good. We use them all the time. I've used them. I've actually made a claim with them for a trip delay, and they were great in taking care of that. But they don't do a cancel for any reason policy. And Dina, do you want to talk about the other company?
Yeah, so I'm a fan of that, cancel for any reason. That clause just gives you peace of mind. You know, we're making these plans 2 years out. Who knows what's happening in all of our lives in the next 2 years. There are typical trip insurance is adequate coverage for 99% of the time. If you would just like to know that, given that this is, thousands of dollars going toward a trip, if you want to know that investment is completely protected, no matter what, something happens in your life and it becomes now a very inconvenient time for you to go, that is not covered under a normal travel policy. But if you have a cancel for any reason policy, it literally means you can cancel for any reason. It's about, I looked at it for myself. I think the price difference was probably about $150 per person, depends on your age and actuary tables. I can send you a link to the policy that I looked at, and Darren has looked through it too, and it's a very common policy for this kind of thing. I highly recommend it if you want to just have 100% peace of mind.
So you recommending both? Or
No,
the
no,
other
the other
just
coverage.
one.
Yeah,
TripMates?
right.
As I said, travel insurance is highly highly recommended. We don't make anything. This is a separate company. It doesn't matter to us from a business if you have this travel insurance or any travel insurance, but we would highly recommend that you have travel insurance.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still wondering what liability insurance would cover. What situation?
Well, like if the bus, like the $3 million thing, if the bus was in an accident,
Exactly.
Yeah.
company's insurance.
Something happens at the hotel, things like that. So the other quick things that aren't included in the trip, daily lunches, which we talked about briefly already, breakfast on the day of arrival and dinner on the day of departure, and that has to do with because those are usually served on the flight, so it's not part of the land cost. And then any difference between current and actual costs for the airline, taxes and fuel surcharges, which we actually talked about already. And then I told you I would show you Samantha's information. So it has her name correct here, Samantha Thomas. and there's her email address. I'm going to leave this slide up as we talk. That's our office phone number, and her extension is 200. You could also ask for me if you had any questions, and I'm happy to answer them. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn my camera on momentarily, and I am going to, I hope you can see me because I can't see myself, but so we have a video that we want to show, and I'm going to go through some questions and answers as well. But I just want to talk about, if you decided you wanted to go, what you should do. And so the registration form is in the back of the brochure. You can just attach that. You fill out the information on there, opting for whether you want to do the extension and whether you want to have a private room or not. It does ask for some specific information. One of the main things is it asks about your passport information. Now, this trip is pretty far out in the scope of things. So if you don't have a passport, or your passport is going to be expiring and you need to make sure your passport is good for at least 6 months past your return date on this trip. So if it's expiring before then, go ahead and fill out the registration form and send it in. It's fine. You have plenty of time to get your passport renewed or to get a passport. But what we need the passport information for is when we actually go to book the airline tickets. The airlines require us to have a copy of the passport on file to make sure that the spelling of the name is correct and that we have all the information for the traveler when it comes to their nationality. So you don't need to worry about that. You can go ahead and fill out the information. The other thing I want to just touch briefly before we do that video is back in the brochure itself, and I skipped over it. On the page where it talks about the pricing of what the trip costs, there's also some information about a payment schedule and a cancellation policy. So what we're requesting now is a $500 deposit with your registration form. Of that, only $100 is non-refundable. After that, we're going to do payments of $500 every few months, and you'll see that the cancellations follow along when the payments are. But we're trying to make sure that you have plenty of time, if you did end up canceling, that you would still get the majority of your money back. But what I want to mention is, if you have trip insurance, even though we have a cancellation policy, you would be returned the money outside of the cancellation penalty, but your trip insurance would cover the difference. So you would be made completely whole if you have travel insurance. So it's really, really important that you think about that. Are there any questions about this? Because we have a video actually to show you. If there are no questions.
Can we do it online, or do we have to mail it with the check?
Oh, that's it. Sorry. I would send it via regular snail mail with a check. If we use a credit card, there is a 3% surcharge that we have to add, and so it costs you more. You may have some added protections from your insurance or from your credit card company if you do that. So some people may like to do it, but a good old-fashioned check is perfect for us, and it does the trick. So it's really your choice.
But you only take.
If you're electronically minded and you really want to, you can fill out that registration. You can turn it into a fillable PDF if you like, and it is available online. But it is not a fillable PDF. But you can do that yourself if you know how, or you can fill it out and scan it and email it to Samantha or to info at, either way, info at MyProof.
Darren, is it only Visa and MasterCard that are accepted as credit card?
No, I believe we accept everything except, I don't think we do Discover, but let me see. I think it's on the registration form.
I think we were wondering about American Express.
Yes, we certainly accept American Express.
And is it one form per person, or can a couple do
Yes.
one?
We need one form per person because that's how they'll separate things for the airline tickets when we go to request those. So everyone needs a form. I am going to turn this slide off, and you should.
Yeah, go ahead.
me-
What's the maximum number of people you'll take?
The minimum is 20. My ideal would be 26. We'll just see.
But is there a
We'll
maximum?
see how it goes. Well, I mean, I'd like 26 to be the maximum. But I mean, the maximum really will be determined by the size of the bus, which probably Darren takes about 40.
It should seat 45, but you really don't want a full
Oh,
bus. You want a few empty seats.
Right, right. Yeah, so I don't think we're going to get that much, so I don't think we need to worry about that. I think it's more about getting to the minimum. So if you are serious about going, it would be helpful if you would register sooner than later. If by July 27th we're not at 20, we'll be discussing whether to open it maybe to a second church community to go with us.
Yeah, and the reason we spread those payments out the way we did, and making them even 500, and it is exactly what Dina was saying. This trip is so far out, but it's so different than anything that you may have had an opportunity to go on. We're hoping that you'll go ahead and register sooner so we can start getting everything put together and know the group size. If we're waiting until later, it makes it much more difficult for us to know if there are going to be enough people to do it. So I would encourage you to go ahead and do that early.
Right.
We do.
If we send initial payment, do y'all remind us when the next payments are due?
Yeah, we have an accounting team, and that accounting team will actually reach out to you and send you an invoice and send you statements. So yes, everything will be handled from us. I will warn you ahead of time that our email server and Gmail don't get along very well. So if you do have a Gmail address and you've registered, please check your spam folder, because I'm sure we've sent you the email, but it may go to your spam folder instead of into your regular inbox.
Yeah, well, and Darren, another thing we can do is, you can send me emails of everybody who's registered, and I can send out a reminder as well.
Yes, we'll keep Dina updated on everyone as they register. Do you wanna go ahead and show the video, and then we'll do some questions and answers?
Sure.
Okay, you're gonna start that from your end. I'm gonna turn. Oh no, I'm gonna leave my camera on because I won't be able to see what's going on if I don't.
Now,
This is Isam.
why is it small? Let's see. Oh, here we go. I knew that.
One of the tour guides of the journey Faith in Egypt. I would like to welcome all of you to the land of civilization and history, and also to the land of the Bible. I would like to welcome St. Mark Church, Episcopal Church, as I know that you are very welcome to come over here to Egypt, and we cannot wait to have them all here. We know that you have so many questions that it might come over to you. The major questions, you might send them over to Arizona office, but there are some questions that I would love to answer for you, especially when you come over here for Egypt for the visits, which is, again, you are very welcome to be here in our country. Questions are like usually average of how many miles that you walk a day. It's a walking distance tour. I would love to say that we are expecting for a daily basis, we're working between 3.5 to 4 miles. This is covering all over the site of Egypt. Questions about the purchasing in Egypt. What is the major currency that you can have? Honestly, you can have everything that you can bring with, but there's something that I would love to mention, that you need to get more cash, especially singles. That would help you a lot for the tour in Egypt. But in general, I would say credit card is very welcome everywhere you go, and it is a safe country to use your credit card. Drinking, eating, what to eat and what to drink in Egypt. Simply, just the tap water is not drinkable, even when you brush your teeth. Mineral water is the thing that you can drink. Usually that is sealed. Anything that is cooked, hot, and steamed, this is the thing that you will need to eat in Egypt. Ice cubes is not recommended to holiday in Egypt. Safety. You're asking about the safety of Egypt. I would love to say that Egypt has been ranked lately one of the top 10 safest countries in the world. Honestly, it is the safest country in the world, number 7. So safety is not a big question in Egypt at all. Safety is all over the country of Egypt, not only Cairo, Sinai, Alexandria, everywhere that you're looking for going over to Egypt, it will be more than safe. Tour in general, it will be an excellent combination of tour between religious, as this is one of the part of your tour, because Egypt is also a part of the Holy Land. So Egypt is a Holy Land, so a part of your tour is going to be visiting churches, monasteries, which is monotheism starts in Egypt. The tour also will be a part of its history, not only here, going over to Luxor, which is the land of the history where 30% of the Holy Water Monument is over there. More questions that may come over to you, you are very welcome to send it over to our office in Arizona, and we will be more than happy to answer all of your questions. But the major questions, I hope that I've done what you're looking for to answer all of your questions, and we cannot wait to have you here in Egypt, all of you. Thank you very much, San Mark Episcopal Church, and we would love to welcome you again, and would love to wait for you here. Hello.
No,
This
don't do that.
is some
No,
one of the tour guides of
stop.
Steve?
Yes.
Average daily low temperature,
So when we're going is the ideal weather time to be in Egypt, which is great. It's not hot and there are no sandstorms, woo, and very little rain. So the low, I mean, generally the low that time of year is about 50. And the high is about 60, 65. So it's really, really lovely. The only exception to that is Mount Sinai. There it will get pretty cold. You'll need, you'll need something for that. It can be around 30 degrees. Yeah, that's, I mean, the low, it'll warm up, but when we're making the climb, it'll probably be 30 degrees. So instead of thinking like big fat coats that you're only going to use for that one thing, think more in terms of like layer and, wool underwear and that kind of thing.
Would you mind turning your camera on so I can see you all?
Yes, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Dina,
Yes.
There you go.
any specially required clothing for women regarding going into holy places that are not Christian?
It's not required, but I would highly recommend a headscarf that you just keep in your backpack or purse or something out of respect. Our day at the Islamic sites, that'll be the day to have that with you. Just generally in terms of what you wear, nothing too scooped, nothing too short, nothing too short.
Holes in your jeans.
I mean, that's actually not terrible, but it's better to be more conservative about it. And sleeves to your elbows are fine. Skirts are fine, just even above the knee, but just right above the knee, not any more than that. Yeah. That's a good question. And we'll get into more details, as we get closer in terms of what to expect in terms of bathrooms along the way.
Yeah.
Which is to say, don't expect very many. We'll keep some toilet paper with us at all times, that kind of thing. They're, 1 pound coins for tipping in the bathroom, but we'll go through all that later.
I do want to go over briefly air, which we talked about a minute ago. Since we don't know which airline we'll be working with, and we're preferred partners with all the major airlines, so we'll seek out several different contracts. We'll offer them to Dina to look over and decide which she thinks works best. And then at that point, we can start putting names on tickets. But since we don't know which airline we're working with, not all airlines are great with working with groups. So for the international portion of the flight, we may not be able to guarantee you that we can get you an upgrade or that we can even let you select your seat. until we know what that airline is. So if that is something that is extremely important to you and you want to upgrade to first or business class, for sure, then I would recommend that you do the land only and book your own air. As soon as we have our air available, we'll publish that out so you know, and you can try to get on the same flight, because you won't be able to get air before we do anyway. So we'll be doing it at the same time. I just want to make that clear. Hopefully we'll be able to get a favorable contract and we'll be able to upgrade you, but I can't guarantee it until it actually happens.
Okay, Darren, we have a question.
Sure.
If you're not sure about your air,
Yeah.
you have to commit to land and air right now, or can you do land only now and then add the air later? Or the-
Since you're so far out, there's no real policy on this. What I would do is I would just commit to the full thing. We literally have until February of next year before you have to make that final decision, and then at that point we can adjust it.
So
So I can commit the whole thing
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
but February, I don't like the air.
you can say, I don't want that, I'm going to do my own thing. That way it's easier to release seats than to get them later.
Exactly. That's why.
Other questions?
There was a currency comment earlier.
Yeah.
Repeat that if you would. Did we say that any currencies are okay, or?
Oh, what he was meaning is that US currency is fine. We'll talk about that more as we get closer. I have views on that may be different, depending on where we are. Sometimes it's not great to have a lot of US dollars visible, when you're in the souk and things like that. You can get better prices, but you can also get more attention than you want. So, yeah.
Very true.
Hats are great.
Mm.
You'll want a hat. Yeah. Think about the back of your neck too.
Well, it's 65 or whatever, 70, whatever it's gonna be, sounds great, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's the driest place I've ever been.
It's dry. It's dry. It's very dry.
I've never had so much water in my life, and my eyes are still drying out of the socket.
If you all want some practice ahead of time, just come visit me in Phoenix, and we'll show you what dry is.
But also, I would, if I could,
Yeah, go ahead.
it took me at least 2.5 individual trips to Egypt to see all the places that are in this one itinerary. So it's an amazing combination of both ancient and Islamic and Coptic sites in one package. So that part is really impressive. I'm talking about like 2.5 different individual 8-day trips with people who knew where we were supposed to go. So, and it's not easy. Traveling around Egypt is not necessarily easy. It's much better to do it in a group than to try to do it by yourself. That's A, and B, I don't know how it explains it in the brochure. I haven't read it. But Sharm el-Sheikh is like world class scuba diving. I mean, that part of the Red Sea is absolutely gorgeous. And the hotels there are absolutely gorgeous. And I didn't go there for the first 2 trips. And when I found out about it, I was kind of irritated. I was like, this was here the whole time. And you guys didn't bring us. So it's a great, great, great place to end the trip. Like that, which can be a little challenging. It's really as nice as anything in the Caribbean.
But the idea is to keep you from needing a vacation after this vacation.
Right.
Do you anticipate 3 legs of flight, or like fly to New York, Cairo? Or somewhere in Europe and then to Cairo, or?
It depends. I mean, there's no way to get from San Antonio anywhere, but
Get places from San Antonio.
okay. I mean, we could end up going, if we went San Antonio, New York, Cairo, that's a possibility. Last time I looked, Egypt Air was the only one doing that. There may be others doing it now. I'd rather take something else for the international. Egypt Air is great, but I can tell you there's just cultural differences on Egypt Air that might not be as comfortable for Americans.
But, you know, probably no more than 2 legs.
Right. I mean, it would probably be from here to another hub in the U.S. or here to Frankfurt and then Frankfurt to Cairo. Yeah, it might only be 2 legs. It's possible. It'll either be 2 or 3 legs, but we'll try for 2, right, Darren?
Yes, we definitely.
Bill, did you have a question? No?
It appears to be a very healthy country, but are there any immunizations suggested or required?
Darren, do you know about that? Immunizations right now for Egypt?
Oh, none that I know of, but I'll look it up when I'm in the office on Monday and see if I can find. I know a lot of the requirements for particular countries, but I don't know of any for anywhere in the Middle East.
Yeah, we'll look into that. To address the security question that nobody wants to ask, Egypt is the State Department has 4 levels of security that they use to indicate how safe it is to travel abroad. Level 1 is absolutely go anytime, enjoy yourself. Number 2 is go, but use caution. The entire Middle East is always at 2. That's where Egypt is now, and almost always is. That's where Israel is now. 3 is non-essential, maybe don't do it. And 4 is absolutely no going.
Like China.
Probably. I haven't looked it up, but I'm guessing maybe.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Israel and Egypt are both 2s on the State Department level. Israel had 4.5 million visitors last year, which was a record. They keep breaking record after record.
Yeah.
Israel is only in the forefront because of the Christian tourists to go there, but our Christian background spreads all over the Middle East, and Egypt is considered as much a part of the Holy Land as Israel is. So you're seeing now tourism numbers growing every year for Egypt, as they are with Israel.
But in Egypt, it's still probably lower than it was before, say, 2011, right?
I don't think so.
Or do you think it's really back up? Okay, maybe
it's back up.
Okay.
9/11 or
2011. Yeah. Okay. Len, you were asking about churches?
Yeah, I mean, any particular vulnerabilities. I know Coptic.
Yeah. I mean, generally, no. We won't be trying to go into a Coptic church on Christmas Day. We won't be doing that, mostly just because it will be a madhouse, not even security related. No. So here's the thing about what you see in Western press. If you see there's a protest in Cairo today, and they'll show a car overturned and on fire, and it makes it look like Cairo is burning. But I promise you, one street over, people don't even know that there's something going on over there. And I got really in touch with that when Mubarak fell, and I had a lot of colleagues in Egypt, and I was traveling in and out and saw what was happening in the press and what was happening on the ground. I do still have contacts with the American Research Center in Egypt. So as we get close, if there are any things that seem concerning, I will find out about them. And I know Faith Journeys will too, but we'll definitely keep a close eye on that.
So, I mean, I wouldn't go to a Baptist church in Cairo on a Sunday just for worship necessarily, but these are cultural sites, these are tourism sites. And, it means a lot to the government.
Yeah, a large population of Egyptians depends on. We're getting some feedback. Is that me? Yeah. And I'm gonna mute my. For a moment, see if that.
Oh, I can't hear anything now. Oh, there we go.
Okay. I'm just creating feedback here and I don't know how to stop.
Okay, well, you know what? If there are any more questions from me, you can address them to the office or to Samantha. And why don't we go ahead and end this part of it where we're recording, and then that'll stop the feedback and people can continue asking questions that they have of you. But we're here to help. And in closing, I'll just say that pilgrimage is a very special thing, and it can open so many places in your mind and in your heart, and you have to go into it without a sense of expectation of what it's going to do, but with an open mind of allowing things to speak to you on the journey that you're about to take. And again, if there are more questions, please contact me. I'll make this recording available here. I'll put it up tomorrow, and I think we should be set, unless you have anything else for me, Dina.
Just make my sound?
I can hear you.
No, that's fine. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.